Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I am your keeper, the Harry Channel, and tonight we have a fine panel once again. SkepTock,
Hi, everybody.
Sora Luna,
Good evening.
Serenity Star 13,
Hello.
and DrFunctional.
Because I know about roaches. The kid's sitting on my lap. What? Come on.
Are you practicing for your future dementia days?
I'm just a little frazzled with stuff. I was late for pre-show and everything, so it was just like rush. Where's my brain at?
Well, let's since we're talking, let's begin with you. How was your day today?
Pretty relaxing.
Was okay?
Yeah, everybody was off for Thanksgiving stuff, so relaxing day at home.
Oh, good. Serenity, how was your day?
It was good. Mostly just eating leftover turkey.
Leftover turkey is great because you can make turkey pot pie, which I just really, really like. I like turkey pot pie more than I like roast turkey.
There's something about that day's process of refrigeration that just sort of recongeals the meat a little bit more, so that it's not tough, but it toughens up a little bit. Makes it very versatile.
Ours was tough. It became so tough, and I don't mean like tough to chew, but it became so tough that it turned flaky. Where like it just takes the fork and it just comes off in like bits.
Like tuna, yeah.
Yeah. And that's how I kind of prefer it, because if it's too moist, it drives me nuts. Because it's like, no, I have mashed potatoes and gravy for that. I don't need you.
Yeah.
That's what the gravy is for. Stop it.
We make a turkey hash.
Well, it works really well because we do we do broccoli, cheese, and rice, and then throw the turkey in.
Oh,
just to kind of change the texture up a little bit, because you get so used to eating mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce. It's like, I need something different.
We got turkey taters, turkey mayo, turkey burgers.
Well, that does sound good. Okay, Sora, how are you doing tonight?
I'm okay.
Good.
I'm looking forward to. I'm working for the next couple of Saturdays. Well, no, that's not true. Next Saturday we're having a staff Christmas lunch, and then back to work on another Saturday afterwards. So it's almost done.
Those bastards. Oh well. Sorry you're gonna have to work on Saturday. That's no fun.
It is what it is. It's what's annoying is the reason is because something that should have been done by other people was not done because they ignored our offices telling them to do it, and now we have to fix it.
You should become a school teacher, because then, every now and then they just tell the students to stay home and the teachers all come in and have a work day.
Oh, fuck no.
I can't think of any other position where
I
you
can't
get to
think
do
of
that.
a more horrible thing than to become... It's not for the kids. Kids can be good. It's having to deal with parents.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what other business do you have where you just take a normal business day when you'd be open and just go, okay, no customers today. We're just going to come in and get caught up on our stuff. That sounds fun.
Woo.
Yeah. Anyway.
We have those though too. We have admin days.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, there's certain days when, due to a long weekend on a Monday, our surgeon is in surgery on a Wednesday, so those days become admin days. It's typically once per month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who knew?
So just the way the timing goes. So it's actually pretty great.
Alrighty then. Hey Skep, how was your day?
Oh, it was filled with the sounds of family and all that sort of thing. The kids are gone. The house is strangely quiet now, and my nerves are starting to defray a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot of them coming over, right?
Yes, indeed. They visit in waves, and like assault waves. No, they're great. They're great kids. They come over and have a good time. mostly.
Mostly.
And the barricades, they're coming through.
It's too bad you can't just put them to work.
It's like D-Day.
Well, actually, they've done a lot of stuff around here, and anytime we need help, man, they are there. They are. It's one thing they're very good about.
Good.
They've been taught is you help each other.
Excellent.
How about you, Harry? How was your day? I heard you were a busy bee today.
When is Harry not a busy bee?
Yeah, I worked most of Thanksgiving, most of yesterday, most of today. Yeah,
Yuri.
yeah, things are super crazy.
Before you get started, I had an idea, and I wanted to make sure I got this idea out. I think that on your show, you should have a quick little department of the dumbest thing one of your customers has done that week.
Well, I used to have.
I would join in that.
Before COVID, I used to have this person that I'd run into playing pool, which was an annoying lesbian woman. And for anybody who doesn't know about that period of the show, she runs around talking about how she's a lesbian. The annoying part just comes naturally as part of her character. So describing her that way is just descriptive without doxing her. But but I don't have an annoying lesbian woman to deal with anymore. So no, I'm afraid. Actually, I don't really have any complaints. Just a lot of work to do.
Oh, okay.
A lot of crazy stuff. But it's boring even to me. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. I'll tell you about some of it after the stream. So let's see. We actually have a not completely crazy schedule, so we can kind of take our time a little bit. But before we get into the real stuff, I want you to take a look at this thing that pissed me off. Okay, another 2-ingredient recipe. 2 ingredients in quotes.
Oh, this is so gross.
2-ingredient no-bake chocolate cake, no flour, eggs, or oil.
Wait, before you get off of that, can you scroll back up a little bit to where it says 2-ingredient?
Yeah.
No bake
Mhm.
chocolate cake, no flour, eggs, or oil. No, it's not.
It's not cake.
Chocolate cakes have flour, eggs, and oil in them.
Oh, you can do a no flour chocolate cake because that's something we do every year for like my birthday. It's delicious, but
you substitute something for flour though.
But it's like full of butter and eggs, so because it's just the best thing ever. But no, you don't.
Arguably, that's a tort or a pie or a tart or something else. To be a cake, in my opinion, it has to have sponge. Now, whether that sponge uses gluten or uses some non-gluten thing and chemistry to achieve the same result, but it has to have sponge with an open with a crumb and a structure, to do it. Now, there are flourless cakes in quotes that are delicious. I mean, absolutely, especially when you start getting into the chocolate realm. But this is not one of those cakes. This is an abomination. This no-bake chocolate cake tastes like a flourless chocolate cake, but you don't need to do any baking. Look, so much like cake, no baking. It is easy to make and doesn't require flour, eggs, or oil. The cake comes out rich and chocolatey. And again,
I don't believe you.
I'm really excited to share this no-bake cake. It really does taste a lot like a classic flourless chocolate cake, except that it's not served warm. In any easy dessert, there's hard to believe there's no baking required, and its 2 ingredients are semi-sweet chocolate chips, banana, or pumpkin puree.
Oh, it's like those pancakes that those keto nut bags make, where they just like puree the banana.
Yep.
And then just try to act like it's a pancake.
Oh, I actually really like that because I made those like just banana. You can do it just banana, but I always stick an egg.
Well, I mean, but you're not trying to pass it off as like some great revelation.
No, it's an easier way to get rid of your mushy bananas.
Oh yeah,
having to make like a banana cake.
I prefer to put them in ice cream.
He says this is just like pie filling.
Yeah, I mean, this could be considered a no-bake pie, and good on them for not using gelatin in it, but it's not cake.
Like Kirby's a lying piece of work.
Yes.
It's it's microwave fudge. That's what it is.
There's no microwave.
I know, but that's like microwave fudge is like 2 ingredients, peanut butter fudge at least.
Oh,
So it's not.
Oh.
So this is basically what it is in a sense. It's just a non-microwave version of it because that
Sorry,
looks like fudge.
my brain just registered what you said. Microwave fudge. Oh God, no.
I have made microwave
Worse
fudge,
than microwaving
peanut butter
your
fudge.
feet.
I like it. Don't start with me.
Okay, well, see, I don't like peanut butter, so you're.
Well, there you
already-
go.
Yeah, I'm the wrong person to talk to. So
Cake
it has
texture, my
a
ass.
cake texture and then cake toppings. Why don't we just make a ganache, which I will point out contains an additional ingredient. So as featured in this picture, this has at least 3 ingredients, not 2, because Kirby is a lying whore. Anyway,
Well, she's also keto, so that's the reason why it is this way.
Yeah, well, keto hawkers are liars
Yes.
usually anyway.
all right.
The keto people are turning into the new vegans,
Right.
where they're just
Obnoxious.
like
yes,
trying to-
annoying.
And being insufferable. Yeah.
yeah, the insufferable.
Well, you're
part.
just trying to hand me a segue here.
Yes,
so,
I am.
Speaking of annoying and insufferable, so I found this terrible article here, and this is from a new thing that might be one of the new lolcows that we can go back to occasionally, called The Week. Banning, criminalizing, maybe even burning books is back for public schools in Texas, Virginia, and elsewhere. In short, this is a very progressive publication, and they are all butthurt about the fact that in some school districts, they're not getting their way. There are actually places in this country that don't want them just to push their agenda in the school libraries. Now, I'm going to not read through this whole thing because it's fairly obvious, but I want to give you a sample of the book that they talk about here. They talk about, let's see. He said, one adult book about homeless teenagers trying to escape troubled past, 33 Snowfish by Adam Rapp, proved public schools would rather have our kids reading gay pornography than about Christ. That's what they're saying here. But let's look at this one book. So I looked at the review. This is just terrible. On top of everything else, Booby's Got the Clap begin Rapp's Little Chicago dark tale about 3 runaways who understand hatred and violence better than love. Custis, an orphan, is fleeing from his owner, a producer of pornography and snuff films. Custis is accompanied by Curl, a child prostitute, and her boyfriend, Booby, who has just murdered his parents and kidnapped his baby brother to sell on the streets. This
What
is the book
hell?
that
Like my childhood.
This is the book that these progressives are saying, I think it's mean for them to take this out of the schools because school kids should be reading this book.
So it actually, the way it sounds fake.
Yeah.
Like it's so much tragedy that it's to the point of it's like made for fun.
Well, it's fiction. Yeah.
Well, can you read this, Sora? Do you want to start from like Drawn Together, more by desperation than friendship? Can you just read us a little of this? Because I know how much fun it is to make you read stuff.
Hold on a second. You've caught me.
Okay.
I'm a bit playing a game. Hold on a sec. Give me a tick.
Sora.
Damn it! It's like being caught in school.
I didn't know there was going to be a quiz.
It's like a novella. It's only 192 pages.
On top of it's on top of everything else.
No, go all the way to Drawn
Together.
Yeah.
And drawn together more by desperation than friendship, they roam from one town to the next, stealing and scavenging. Alternating first-person narratives graphically expresses Custis's and Curl's histories of abuse and exploitation. Booby remains more of a mystery, revealing troubled thoughts through pictures rather than words. And Ring's line illustrations are meant to recreate Booby's sketches. Signs of hope do not appear until 2 of the 3 children have lost their lives and the lone survivor, touched by a stranger.
Giggity.
Can you scroll down? Or scroll up? Touched by a stranger's kindness, faces options that could change his life. Readers may have trouble stomaching the language. Example.
Don't read that
quote,
last part.
Don't say that ER. Don't
as
say
well
that.
as the horrors so flatly depicted and in the end so
Lucky I'm not
handily
reading.
overcome. Final artwork not seen by PW.
Yeah. So this is what
Ages
they're
15
defending.
plus.
Yeah, this is the stuff that the big old mean conservatives are trying to keep out of the school libraries.
It's not even that big of a book, though. It's only 192 pages. How do you get through all of that in 192 pages when there's illustrations in it, too, because that's how one of them gets their voice heard? There's no way you can actually write something that's actually, like, would have that deep of a meaning in that short amount of pages.
It's probably double spaced in addition.
Yeah.
No.
There's no fucking way. There's
also another
way.
book that, like, graphically depicts the story of this, basically destigmatizing an 8-year-old filleting a full-grown man.
No.
And there's like illustrations about that. That's another one of these books that they want to get rid of, and I'm like, yeah, good. Let's get rid of them. You know what? Normally, I'm all for freedom of speech and, you know, let's not burn books and everything. But like, this is clear indoctrination of children into that realm of what we as civil society have already deemed no.
If you want to do it in university, you know, if you're getting a PhD in ick, I suppose that could be valid source material. I'm getting my PhD in
pretty well put.
There's literally only 5 chapters. I'm looking at the sample on Amazon. That's the reason why I can talk. But there's 5 chapters. That's it.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on this, or can we move on to the next thing?
Move on, because I'm about to stab somebody.
Okay.
This person got published by an actual publishing company.
So I think this is. I think this was something you posted, Functional.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this relates to, you know, kind of in a way what we were talking about just now, that the Toronto District School Board has decided that this speaker and her book are to be banned from school. She was supposed to do a speaking circuit. She's a child sex trafficking survivor in the Islamic world, the extreme Islamic world. I don't remember what country, but she was kidnapped by Islamic State militants and forced into that trade. But they thought it would be promoting Islamophobia. And so that's why they banned it and canceled her tour in the schools, because it's like this, to juxtapose what we were just talking about, this isn't like fiction or trying to normalize that stuff. This is like a cautionary tale. This is someone's actual lived life experience to share, to be like, hey, this stuff is wrong. Maybe, and this is teenage kids. This is high schoolers. So 13, 14 and older would be hearing about this kind of stuff, which, you know, that's what's kind of going on in the world. And sometimes, although more frequently overseas, sometimes in our own backyard, that we have to, as a community, again, as a civil society, should keep our eyes and ears open to these kinds of abuses going on so we can combat them. And for them to censor it, it's just such an insult to both this woman as a survivor and to the children who really should be learning about this kind of stuff in the right way. And I think that this is the right way. I haven't read the book. I read the Cole's notes, kind of, you know, it's some pretty real stuff. But, you know, if kids can and should read, you know, Tom Sawyer, they can and should be able to read this book or hear this woman speak about, you know, some of the worst of the worst that goes on in the world.
She was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize in 2018 for the book. She was abducted from Kocho, Iraq. And she was held by the state the Islamic State for 3 months. But yeah, no. But she's also, like, she got appointed. She's an advocate for sustainable development goals appointed by Secretary General of the United Nations. So yeah, like, this is not.
She's been recognized on the international stage. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
so that doesn't make any sense. It's
stuff. Not good in subject matter. I mean, like, good educational matter, unlike the stuff we were just talking about, which is not good for any educational system.
Yeah, but it's like,
except to maybe deconstruct it and be like, this is gross.
But she's Iraqi as well, so it's like, it can't promote Islamophobia if she's also.
Yeah, my country, especially in this area, is just insane. Like, people are insane.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
They won't.
I know.
Yeah.
I can pray, damn
Well,
it.
she's Yazidi, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
and that means, she's basically that's the very northern part of Iraq. It's the part of Iraq that the Kurds live in. It's the southern part of the Kurds, basically, which is northern Iraq, which is hard to understand, but that's just the way that works. And those guys have been hosed by the West so many times. They have been told, yeah, we're going to help you. We're going to stick with you to the bitter end. And then we leave and they get massacred. We've done that to them like 3 times. The grace that, of a person like this shows to come out and tell her story like this, on top of all the bullshit that those people have had to endure.
Well, a little addendum to what you just said, Skep.
Well, the people think that might, they're afraid that it will harm Islamic folks, that will make people, quote, Islamophobic. Mm-hmm. She's more than likely Islamic herself. Mm-hmm. More than likely, everybody she knows is Islamic. You might have some Druze tucked away up there, and maybe even, a Maronite, but I don't know. I'm sorry. Would you start to see functional?
Well, a little addendum to what you said, like the West as a whole, because I know Canada was a part of it. We did help some of the Iraqis. We helped the northern Iraqis. We helped the rich ones.
Yeah,
and left everybody else to basically get screwed over by the militant.
We screwed over their fighters. That's what I know.
Yeah, it's terrible. And just to give you, like, in Canada, we have quite a few reform followers of Islam. They're not. How can I explain this? They're not the types you would see in like Iraq or Afghanistan. The people you typically see in the media who are doing some of these atrocities. These are reform people. These are people who are very heavily westernized, but still, like Reformed Jews and Reformed Christians, look at some of the stuff in the book and go, you know what? That's not really for the modern times. I still will pray to Allah and do all that stuff, but let's just leave the hate and the violence out of it. And respect, because that's what we need. I might be an anti-theist myself, but if you're going to take that step to reform your religion to still be a part of your life, but be more civilized for a modern world, I have utmost respect for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have a couple little palate cleansers, little miniature palate cleansers lined up.
Mini sorbets.
Both from the Babylon Bee. This first one just killed me. Prosecutors find mail-in jury votes at 3 a.m. Rittenhouse now guilty.
That's just classic.
That's genius.
And that's stunning.
I have to go on trial for killing me. I almost died. Oh, it's hilarious.
In a stunning reversal, Kyle Rittenhouse woke this morning to discover that he had been found guilty after all. Prosecutors explained that during the night, they'd found dozens of mail-in jury votes declaring the defendant guilty on all counts. Apparently, boxes of these mail-in votes arrived in a truck at the courthouse around 3 a.m. Attorneys for Mr. Rittenhouse were dumbfounded as to how such a thing could have happened, raising questions as to the validity of mail-in jury voting. They stated, "We've never heard of this. This isn't part of the legal system. Where did these votes even come from? How dare you question the sanctity of our criminal justice system," cried the prosecuting attorneys. "There is no justice until every vote is counted." Prosecutors then explained that it was a new COVID measure that they had just instituted, but given how well it's worked out, they said, "We're planning on making it permanent." Good,
oh God!
Good job, Babylon Bee. And they also did this one, which I thought was pretty spot on. CNN reports on deadly boat accident at Pearl Harbor.
Oh yeah!
Tragic random boat accident at Pearl Harbor.
We need common sense SUV control now.
CNN and other mainstream news outlets are reporting on a tragic, completely accidental boating accident in Pearl Harbor. As details still come in, CNN is urging people not to rush to judgment or assign blame until the story goes away in a few days.
Properly cynical.
Such a tragic and completely accidental boating accident, said one news anchor. The thing that's so sad about it is the tragic, totally random accidentalness of it. Our hearts are with the victims and whatever. Anyway, in other news, independent journalists from the scene were sending messages that this was an intentional attack by the Empire of Japan that was designed to inflict as much destruction and casualty as possible. Such messages have been dismissed as unfounded and racist and likely linked to recent increases in anti-Asian hate crimes.
The tone perfect.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Anyway.
I also love the celebs one where it says Mark Ruffalo donates $50 million to found Joseph Rosenbaum Elementary.
Oh gosh.
That would make me giggle too.
Yeah, these guys are on fire. Well, anyway, that makes me feel better after the icky sex trafficking discussion.
Oh.
Okay, something else good that's happening. Nebraska records the lowest unemployment rate in U.S. history.
Oh, good for them.
Yay!
Yeah, exactly. So the question
What was that
is,
rate?
1.9%.
Nice.
Wow.
Now, of course, this is based on, I mean, we don't need to go into a whole discussion of why these numbers are not great. They're sus, as Sora would say. They don't count people who stopped looking for jobs and a bunch of other things.
Oh,
Yeah.
But they have 3 times as many jobs posted as they have job seekers right now.
Yeah.
Now,
Again, it's that
Wow.
whole thing of like who's searching for, like, how many people have stopped searching for a job? That's what I want to know.
yeah, exactly.
The,
Go ahead, Skep.
the problem is that when you have jobs going wanting, that's the sign of a shrinking economy and often a shrinking society. That statistic actually worries me.
Well, it's
That-
extremely abnormal because under normal circumstances, you would expect 3-4% of people just to sort of be between things,
Yes.
meaning that they're moving from one job to another. That's normal. My boss is a dick. Screw that guy. Well, yeah, that a lot of bosses are dicks, and that's part of why there's usually 4%.
Right.
That's pretty normal. Anything much lower than that, and then that's a sign that something weird is going on. But in this stupid article, they were making a number of claims. One of them is that it was the high graduation rates, that somehow because they have an educated workforce, they can actually put them to work. That sounds pretty rosy colored glasses to me, but there might be part of it. They've also got a Republican governor, so it's possible that they have a much better business climate than, say, California.
Yeah, I think Mommy's little sociologist will probably go back home to live with Mommy before they actually go out and get a job where, they come home with a sore back and, feel the effects of having done a day's honest work.
Work at Best Buy? Huh, I have a degree in literature.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, Metaforest gets it.
Yeah, well, it's like, I mean, that's
Yeah.
like my state. Unemployment and disability have been gamed for decades here.
Yeah.
Like, I used to work in an apartment building where I would see people literally who were supposedly so disabled they couldn't walk, and yet they were doing laps around. There was a track that was down the road from us, and I would literally see them do laps around the track.
Mhm.
They were fine, and they could literally stand and walk, and nothing was wrong with them.
Yeah, I
And
kind
it's
of
just-
miss the good old days when they used to have private eyes that would follow unfaithful wives and husbands around trying to get an at-fault divorce, and also bust people for disability fraud.
Yeah.
They do that here for car insurance stuff.
Nice.
Mhm.
So because my friend is finally getting her case seen to,
Mhm.
and they've basically asked all these extremely intrusive questions, which would only have been able to find out if she had someone actually on her, spying on her
Mhm.
the whole time. She said it was very violating.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was in a a bad-ish accident and had some. I still have some herniated discs in my neck. That's fun. And I went to see the doctor that represented the defendant in the case. And this guy took both of his hands, put them on top of my head, and pushed down with what felt like about 40 pounds of force.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I pretty much buckled and fell to the floor.
What the fuck was he doing?
At least when he put his report, he said, yeah, I don't think Harry's faking it. I'm not that good an actor.
You think?
So, it could be worse. When you're talking about money, large amounts of money, people will be really careful about it. You
Jesus
can't really
Christ.
blame them because there are people that try to work the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, enough about me. Let's see. Here's a little bit of medical news. We're getting into the more technical stuff now. Diabetes breakthrough blood biomarker predicts disease onset 19 years before diagnosis. Anybody want to talk about this?
Cool.
Follistatin levels. So essentially, they found this one chemical that, if it's present in the blood in high amounts, even as much as 20 years in advance, it can predict if somebody's likely to get type 2 diabetes. Now, when I read this article, I was thinking, oh, does this mean that that people get type 2 diabetes because of some sort of genetic thing? No, it's mostly just your bad habits show up that early.
I mean, it's a nice warning, though, that they can do beforehand. So this way, hopefully, you can catch it in time. So you don't either, you don't get the really bad version of it, or at the very least, you can stop it from happening entirely. Now, mind you, some of the assholes of the internet who don't even think they should be asked to be weighed probably won't allow the blood test to find that kind of stuff because my weight's my thing. But so it's like, it's only going to do favors for people who actually have the backbone to get that checked, but it's at least good for those people.
And heed their doctor's advice, yeah.
Yeah, really.
Well, there's so much stuff you can do in advance. If you have a family history of certain types of breast cancers,
Oh, yeah.
you can do genetic screening. If you have a propensity for diabetes, that would seem to be a thing where you could just use that information to say, hey, maybe you might want to make better choices. Maybe we'll just check your A1C. For instance, even in younger people, if you've got a family history with a lot of prostate cancer in it, they'll check your, your PSA. Was it prostate specific antigen?
Yeah.
They'll do stuff like that earlier than they would otherwise. They won't just assume that, until you get to 50 or 60, they need to care about that stuff. So I don't think there's anything wrong with a little preventive medicine. And if they've found some way of determining if people are likely to get type 2 diabetes, then great. Yeah.
Beatus.
Yeah. The beatus. Wait a
That's
second.
interesting that third paragraph there. The study finds that follistatin promotes fat breakdown from the adipose tissue, the body fat. However, this leads to increased fat accumulation in the liver. So that's why it would increase your risk and likelihood of developing the type 2 diabetes. That's really interesting.
I cannot believe it. In the branding I have here in StreamYards, I don't have a single picture of Wilford Brimley talking about diabetes. How is that possible?
It just doesn't seem natural.
I've clearly done too good a job of cleaning up this mess.
You removed too much here. You removed too much.
I know.
Follistatin taking away too much fat.
Okay, well.
Now the show is rotten and accumulating
It is.
diabetes.
You're all terrible people. Okay.
Check your goddamn blood sugar.
Check your blood sugar. Okay. This is an article which I can't remember. It was either you or Geodes that sent this functional.
Geo.
Yeah.
Geodes.
And it's Einstein's notes on theory of relativity fetch record 11.6 million euros at auction.
Jeez.
Now, this is really interesting to me, but I took a very different take on it than I think Geodes did. Geodes was like, "Oh, this is really cool. It's a science article." It's like, well, but it's not a physics article. It's really a psychology article.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, the real question is, why is a sheet of paper with incomplete work on it worth 11.6 million euros?
None of them will be able to answer you.
Branding. I mean, it's Einstein. It's a piece of history, and
Yeah.
you know.
Well, it
it's
has
him and
no
a
intrinsic
colleague.
value. It has
No, it
no
doesn't.
intrinsic value at all, but it is a historical artifact. So what makes a historical artifact valuable?
The fact that this kind of thing is something that only they can have. So
Yeah, there are people like that in the world. It's mine. It's only mine. Screw you.
It's also a bit of branding. Like, I mean, it's Einstein. He's one of the most widely known scientists of that caliber,
Mm-hmm.
at least across the Western world. I'm just trying to pull out reasons why someone might attribute value to it. But Einstein's a pretty big draw. I mean, you ask, most people don't know who Robert Oppenheimer are, or oh, she was just on the tip of my tongue. Insulin lady. Not insulin, penicillin.
Penicillin lady? I don't
Dorothy
think a-
Hodgkin?
I thought penicillin was invented by a dude
yeah.
or discovered by a dude.
Alexander Fleming, to
Yeah.
be exact.
I'm
He's
thinking
working
of
with
something
bread
else. Then.
mold.
Clearly.
Yeah,
You are-
like, are
you
you
are
thinking? Are you
Are
thinking
you
about
thinking
nuclear?
of Marie Curie?
Yeah,
Like
are you
Marie
thinking Marie
Curie?
Curie?
Mary Curie. Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
she's on
That's
the
not
money.
even. Yeah, that's not even.
Yeah, she didn't
Yeah.
work
But I mean,
that
these
much
are-
with.
these are-
She didn't work with penicillin that much.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are other scientists that I would attribute to the same sort of caliber, the same league of influence and contribution to the scientific world that Einstein did. But most people probably wouldn't know those names, or they might have heard them in passing, but don't know exactly what they did. Einstein's got that brand. I know. I've known quite a few people who have that one poster on their wall of Einstein, giving
Sticking
the
his
silly
tongue
face
out?
with the tongue out.
Yeah.
Well, we've brought back tons of moon rocks. Now, after you've studied them and you get whatever data out of them you're going to get out of them, what makes a moon rock more valuable? Actually, I guess the question is,
Scarcity.
what makes people willing to spend more money for a moon rock than just some rock that they find outside their door?
Because they could potentially have space.
It came from
I
the
don't know,
moon.
bacteria.
It came from the moon.
Well,
They
I
get
mean-
mutant powers. No, I think I'm with functional scarcity because it's say we get tons of rock showers here and there and bits and fragments of other asteroids or meteorites or whatever
Meteorites,
gets falls down,
Mhm,
but it's not necessarily in a place where people can retrieve them.
mhm.
So I would think it's kind of cool. Well, here's a piece of space. This was out in space. It's fantastic. I'm never gonna go up there, but this piece of rock has.
Yeah, so
Now it's
NFTs. So an NFT is cool then, right? Because it's scarce.
It's scarce, but that's different. That's not for me. And this is probably purchaser preference.
Mhm.
But that's something it's a measly human on our planet created. And it's not even someone to the caliber of Einstein, who at least is attributed to a lot of fantastic things.
Well, I can tell you that humans place more value on things which have a story associated with them. You're not paying for the thing itself. It isn't even the scarcity of it. It's the fact that you are associating yourself with the story behind the object. So you can't become Einstein by just snapping your fingers. For most people, nearly all people, there's no way you're ever going to be Einstein.
Especially
Not
with that
me.
attitude.
Yeah, not with that attitude. But if you've got a bunch of money, you could associate yourself with Einstein by buying this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And psychologically, this is important. Much like I have a mug from the place where the village was from the TV series The Prisoner. I have some little dilithium crystals that supposedly were from the set of Star Trek, the original series. And these things have value to me because of where they were, because there's a story associated with them, because intrinsically they have no more value than any other mug that I have. And to me, I think it's interesting that people think about things that way. And it's they talk about it in terms of, I think there's a couple different things. Attachment theory is one of them. But really, you know, what makes an artifact? What makes something special? Like it almost has magical properties to it. In the human mind, that people are willing to spend so much money for it. Anyway, it's fascinating to me. I don't know. I'm probably not explaining it very well.
No, you are.
No,
Okay.
I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's sort of like, however minor, as a footnote into the history of that item, they're buying their way into history.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier than taking physics classes. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
So let's see. So there was this article that I can't remember. Was this you, Functional, or was this Geo?
No, this was not me.
Okay. Anybody want to talk about this?
I mean, is anyone actually shocked?
No, not particularly. Narcissists, psychopaths, and manipulators are more likely to engage in virtuous victim signaling, says study. Now,
That's all right.
I read through this article, and a lot of it seems pretty obvious. You know, shitty people do shitty things, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly, the gist of this article, which I should probably link so that other people can look at it, is that shitty people want things, right? And if they can basically use this kind of status, you know, especially claiming that they're some sort of virtuous victim, it gives them cover for shitty things that they do to get the things that they want anyway. And that's all that it really boils down to, which is perfect. I mean, think about something like the Salem witch trials. Which people got accused of being witches? Usually people where you wanted their husband, their cow, or their land. You know, it wasn't just, oh, it's fun to light people on fire. No, they did it because they wanted something. And a lot of times in, you know, nasty dictatorships, you know, you basically accuse people of bad, naughty behavior because you want something they have, their job, their fiance, whatever. This virtue signaling stuff is really just weaponized sociopathy all too often.
Well, it's weaponized sociopathy, but it's also because of social media. You have the whole thing of where it literally requires no effort whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So it makes it a lot easier for that kind of narcissistic stuff and just ego and just selfishness to kind of come through. Like, slight anecdote, like I had friends who went to their own family Thanksgiving. They claim that someone there who was a family friend of a friend was there who was making comments about liberal churches and trying to find out if people were gay. And they're very SJW, but they're only SJW when they're on social media. They didn't confront this person. They didn't talk back to him. The minute they had finished eating, they just ran away. And that's normal for them. Like, unless they were in a big group during the peaceful protests or they're on social media, they're all cowards. Because they won't stand up for anything. They're the bullies, and like they're the group of bullies that was in high school and elementary and all that kind of stuff. They don't. It often makes me believe that they don't believe half the shit they're saying. It's one of those. It's like
I'm part of the group.
Yeah, and it's the whole thing of also they want to be rebels without actually sacrificing anything. Because they don't sacrifice anything. That rebellion requires sacrifice of some kind. But they don't want to. It's the very thing they project onto, we'll also take the anti-vaxxer thing. The very thing they project onto the anti-vaxxers of being selfish and how dare you not think of other people, blah, 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 blah. That's like, you want to get the vaccines this way you don't have to care about anybody anymore.
Yeah.
You want to control other people because you know you've been controlled, because this is the way at least it looks like to me. You know you've been controlled. You don't want to own up to it because it means you have to own up to the fact that you were gullible or stupid or whatever. So now you want to control other people because God forbid you look internally to yourself and realize, well, I got duped. And that's what a lot of this is. Like, they're racist, but they claim everybody else is racist. They are sexist, but they claim everybody else is sexist. In the case of certain male feminists, they claim everybody else is a rapist because they are. Like it's the mirror thing of what they accuse everyone else of, they are. That's the reason why when anybody tries to start this stuff, I'm always like, so what skeletons do you have in your closet? That's the way I always look at it.
Yes, guards
it's
drink
the
jealously.
largest voice kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like they want,
or loudest voice, largest
they
voice.
don't want God, but they want to be God.
So,
That's kind of the thing.
So, Mr. Tock, would you be so kind as to read this one long paragraph?
Yes, hang on a second here. Let me get this.
Because I think this does a pretty good job of summing things up, certainly better than my ham-fisted attempt to do it.
An emerging literature on competitive victimhood documents the prevalence of victim signaling by various social groups and provides evidence for its functionality as a resource extraction strategy. For instance, victim signaling justifies victim groups seeking retribution against alleged oppressors. Retribution often takes the form of demanding compensation through some kind of resource transfer from non-victims to the alleged victim. Claiming victim status can also facilitate resource transfer by conferring moral immunity upon the claimant. Moral immunity shields the alleged victim from criticism about the means they might use to satisfy their demands. In other words, victim status can morally justify the use of deceit, intimidation, or even violence by alleged victims to achieve their goals. Relatedly, claiming victim status can lead observers to hold a person less blameworthy, excusing transgressions such as the appropriation of private property or the infliction of pain upon others that might otherwise bring condemnation or rebuke. Finally, claiming victim status elevates the claimant's psychological standing, defined as a subjective sense of legitimacy or entitlement to speak up. A person who has the psychological standing can reject or ignore any objections by non-victims to the unreasonableness of their demands. In contrast to victim signalers, people who do not publicly disclose their misfortune or disadvantage are less likely to reap the benefits of retributive compensation, moral immunity, deflection or of blame, or psychological standing, and would therefore find it difficult to initiate resource transfers.
Yeah. Money, please.
Well said. That's really well put, though.
Yeah.
On the nose.
I'm kind of thinking competitive victimhood is going to be like the title of a Babylon Bee article of the new Olympic sport.
Yeah, damn straight.
But I mean, it really, like, I mean, just listening to Skep reading that paragraph, it's like, oh, so that's what's been going on for the last 4 years, with certain groups doing certain things, and then we find out that you can't throw a stone in those groups without hitting, a domestic abuser, a pedo, just all sorts of bad people.
It's like the Rittenhouse
They're hiding
thing.
behind it. That's exactly what I'm trying to refer to. Like, they're hiding behind it, as a shield to hide away from their own bad juju.
He took a gun across state lines. No, he didn't. The guy who tried to shoot him did, but okay. Yeah, it's that whole thing of like, you're right, you're just putting it on the wrong person.
Their sudden obsession with borders was pretty adorable.
It's weird.
Yeah, that was great. That was a little funny. Are
Like,
you guys not like United States where you're allowed to
States' rights?
Well, well, with gun
Yes.
laws, it depends on the states. Like, my state will recognize any gun permit from any other state, but other states will not. So it depends on the state.
But because of the state's
Yeah.
right sort of,
Yeah.
doctrine, like, they're very different. Up here, we don't have that.
Yeah.
There's certain things that may vary different from province to province, but more or less the law is the same nationally. More or less.
Gun ownership is federal. So if something is restricted in Ontario, it's going to be restricted in BC. If something is unrestricted in Newfoundland, it's going to be unrestricted in Alberta.
But conversely, your permit's good nationwide.
Yeah, exactly. It's federal, and if you're looking for province-specific laws. They do have province-specific. That's usually to do with hunting, gaming, that kind of stuff. And then it goes even down to the municipality about how close to a city center are you allowed to shoot a gun. So, yeah.
Yeah,
We
people don't seem to object to the idea that you can't fly your drone at the airport.
Yeah.
But, if you say, well, I should be able to open carry my assault rifle 15 at the post office, then they get a little bit out of shape. I mean, I'm generally pretty pro Second Amendment, but the idea that there aren't some exceptions, I think, is a bit much.
And to be clear, Keeper just corrected me. Gage was originally from Wisconsin, so I was wrong about him bringing across state lines.
Gage Grosscrotch, whatever his name was.
Grosskreutz. Yeah.
Grosscrotch.
Yeah, like Keeper damn
mine.
corrected me.
You stole that from me.
Yeah. Well, I'll see your checks in the mail, dude. Let's see.
Why would you care if he steals your gross crotch? Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, I know.
That's my joke.
Don't
My
you want him
joke.
to get it?
Yeah. Let's see. So this is a computer thing. We're very tech heavy tonight. Sorry, folks. UBC researchers train computers to predict the next designer drugs.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I should let somebody explain this other than me, but I know this one's going to come back on me. Anybody want to take this?
I didn't quite understand it. I just thought it was very, very interesting, and a lot of people were kind of making fun of it here. Because it's like, fentanyl 2.0.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. This looks like it's a chemistry or pharmacokinetics type of article, but it's not. It's an information article. It's an article about what we can do with information.
Well, I can tell you how it works. Oh, go ahead, Serenity.
Well, no, it's just, that's what I was about to ask. It's like, well, because the thing is that, is it based off of like already trends? But in order to have the trends, you'd have to get actual good, solid information from people. Like I don't know how they would even do it where it would be able to do it properly. Like it feels like it's almost like how it used to be before COVID hit. Like when they tried to guess which strain of the flu was about to become the big one, so they gave everybody shots for that one, and sometimes they got it wrong.
It's way scarier than that. I can tell you what they did.
Okay.
They got a bunch of information about psychoactive drugs, their chemical structure, and they basically were handed to them by people who work with controlling these things. They said, here's a database of things that people like to stick in their bodies to feel weird. And then they basically took an AI algorithm and said, start looking at different possible molecules and then see if these remind the AI of these things that cause people to hallucinate.
Oh boy, that doesn't sound like it'd be dangerous the wrong
and
hands.
so they ran like tons, and so what they're trying to do is they're trying to get ahead of designer drugs. So people try to exploit holes in the legal system because you have to actually enumerate the drugs to make them be illegal. So you say, PCP is illegal, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. MDMA, yada yada yada. So you start listing all these different drugs. Now, the way some of these designer drugs work is they slip through a legal loophole because you find something that people want to buy before the law can outlaw it. And so in order to kind of make it easier to catch up with that stuff, what they've done is they've run all of these simulations and then said to the AI, do you think this is something that will get people high? And then the AI says, yeah, that looks kind of like other things that make people get high. Let's add that to the list of things that might make people high. So then when you find somebody coming in or find them on a slab, whatever, and you have this molecule, you're trying to go, I don't even know what this thing is. If all they do is look at the molecular weight of this thing, which they can get very, very easily with just the lab equipment that they have in most of the crime labs, they can then look at this database of possible drugs that they generated with the AI And it already narrows it down considerably. They have a 75% chance of a hit just based on the molecular weight. They go, oh yeah, this thing that killed this person is almost certainly the same thing as the other thing. And then once you know that, the process of comparing them is fairly easy. So it takes what would have taken months for the law enforcement to catch up and narrows it down to just days.
Well, to that, I say, fuck it, just legalize everything. Screw this shit. I'm not even that big fan of designer drugs.
We got a slab figure right here.
Fuck it.
Well, I know this is probably making Skep's head spin because he knows more than a little bit about pharmaceuticals. But and there are certainly models for doing like protein folding and all this stuff that he probably knows about. But this AI approach, I think, is actually pretty novel.
Shut up and take my money.
No, I actually think that this is the way that research is going to. A lot of research of a certain type of research is going to be done in the future. It simply is easier to write the code and perform the simulation than it is to actually do the work. And as far as its ability to save you time, oh my God, it's beyond belief the difference between doing a clinical trial and teasing information out this way. I mean, you won't be able to get precise enough information to get down to the specifically designing drugs, but you can certainly isolate mechanism of actions and promising chemistries and of things that you need done. Almost any industrial, not just medical, but almost any industrial process would lend itself to that kind of analysis.
So I'm looking at chat. Chat has been watching Dune recently. I think that's part of it here. Yes, let's all take spice, but then you have to become a guild navigator or something, and I don't know.
Hell yeah!
Or a human robot computer calculator.
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, the guild navigator didn't look like a bad gig.
No, I want that Mentat juice. I mean, everybody knows you're juicing because they can see your lips are stained, but
right.
I want the guild navigator job. Fuck this shit.
But quickly, like you were saying last week, Skep, I believe it was last week, you said that like most of the stuff that's happening in labs today is all virtual anyway, right?
Yeah, there's a lot
so
of
these. So my understanding is that these predictive algorithms can basically sort of tell the researchers what would be a good avenue to actually try to create something, a chemical compound for a drug.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
One of the ways that this actually got started was that people would, as Harry was talking about, you have to enumerate a drug to make it illegal. You have to describe it chemically and be very precise about that. And so what they noticed was that, well, this, fentanyl stuff made people high, so we're going to make it illegal. Okay. Well, then this Indonesian chemist is sitting there going, I just made levofentanyl, which is an isomer of fentanyl. It's essentially fentanyl plus a little something, and that does nothing. That does absolutely nothing at all, but it makes the chemical description different, and that chemical is not illegal in the United States, even though it is. And L-fentanyl really is a chemical, by the way, and it is effectively identical to fentanyl.
So you could both patent it and potentially make a lot of money, or sell it as a street drug. Again,
well, what they do, all they do is sell it as a street drug, because as soon as it's detected out there and they realize what's going on, that it's essentially added to the list.
Justice system comes down hard. Yeah, I can imagine.
So.
Cool. Sorry to derail you there, Harry. I was just really
no, you're fine. We're
actually plays out.
I actually was careful and didn't overschedule tonight's show. You guys have a good time. You guys are having fun talking about stuff. Just keep talking.
I'm kind of the same viewpoint that Metaforest is like, I'm not opposed to banning drugs until they're openly evaluated, and then once they're openly evaluated, have at it. that's my kind of stance on drugs. I want it to be evaluated first to see what it is. This way we have labeling and all this kind of stuff of like, if you have this, don't take it because it could cause further problems and all this kind of stuff. So I'm kind of with Metaforest on that one.
Well, I'm kind of a radical. I jokingly say I'm a radical centrist because I try not to be too ideological. Sort of a small L libertarian, but I'm pretty big on free markets. And I will say that I mostly agree up until we start talking about them not so much as being drugs that a person could use on themselves, but as a dangerous compound that might need some kind of controls or tracking.
Yeah.
So when you start talking about like Rohypnol, I don't particularly care if people want to go to the pharmacy, get Rohypnol, and sleep for 3 days. Not my business. Don't give a crap. But to make it so you could just over the counter let 13-year-old kids buy Rohypnol, that seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, regulation.
That's
I
not
don't
how.
think. I think to get into the chocolate milk supply and the school lunches, and bad things start happening. It's not going to go particularly well. In the same way that we keep records of people who buy strontium nitrate ammonium nitrate fertilizer, and
with
other
strontium
things.
nitrate, we also really keep track of them.
Yeah, I know it's not part of the standard formula, but any of that sort of stuff, I'd like a pound of mercury fulminate, please. Well, I want a pony, so it's fine.
Yeah, why? Why do you want that mercury fulminate?
Reasons.
Yeah, exactly. I want 2 kilograms of anhydrous phosphoric
Just screw you.
acid.
That's why you're not the boss of me.
I mean,
well, hold on. Just I'm going to derail my show just for a second here. I think I told you, Skep, that when I was 10, I saved up my money and I took $20 and I went to the local pharmacy and I told them I needed a liter of reagent grade H2SO4. And they sold it to me. They said, "Why do you need that, little boy?" I said, "Because my dad's been doing gold mining and he needs it."
Oh,
said,
so you were
"Okay."
taking sulfuric acid up to leach gold?
Yeah, well, you use it to dissolve all the stuff that isn't gold.
yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. That's leaching. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, if you've got a good enough story, people will sell you anything. So my point being that maybe somebody should have asked me twice why I needed a liter of H2SO4. I'm not entirely... I was an
think they were
evil
probably
child.
so startled that they didn't even think,
Yeah,
ask you, or to
I caught them off guard. But stuff like polonium, rohypnol, ricin...
Yeah.
there are a few things in this world that I would probably want to regulate a little bit. But if it's just stuff that people want to take,
out of ricin.
if it's just stuff that people want to take, and we're not, I also probably would still keep the controls on some of the really, really good antibiotics. We don't need a bunch of people taking vancomycin and other things that are the last things we have to hold off flesh-eating bacteria.
Or God forbid someone take. I prefer pectin.
Stuff like that. I don't
Crucify
them.
them.
But yeah. Anyway, sorry. I've really screwed up my own show. Sorry, everybody. What were we talking about? We were talking about these
I
drugs.
agree with you in that, like, they're really like when Rohypnol. If you're going to take that for your own personal use, sure. But if someone were to use that as let's not mince words, a weapon, then I don't see that as any different than me using a knife from my kitchen or my car or firearm or something to inflict harm onto another. That's a choice. Whereas there is a distinct difference in releasing a flesh-eating bacteria onto a populace where you may not have the right controls, and there should at least be regulation and observation and knowing who's got these compounds or whatnot that could be potentially very dangerous, which we kind of already do. I mean, you have to have various licenses to study these kinds of things, right?
Yeah. I mean, anybody who laces even an illegal drug claims that they're selling you one thing and then sells you something different, something that's adulterated with dangerous chemicals. There should be a really deep hole that they throw people like that in.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care if it's legal or illegal. You don't sell people fentanyl when all they wanted was some pot.
Those young do-gooders slipping their rohypnol into a lady's martini? Throw the book at them, I say.
That's old news. No one slips things in drinks anymore. You just prick them with a dirty needle.
Well, there were people cutting
What they doing
LSD
now?
with angel dust, back in the 90s. That's back in the 80s. That was a thing. That's one of the big things about drug legalization, because if you legalize it, at least we can get to the point where we have some idea of what it is you're actually buying.
Yeah.
When you buy it from some shady dude at the park at 10 p.m., you don't know what the hell you're getting.
That's exactly what happened. I must have been 17 or 18, and somebody sold me some pot, and it was laced with PCP, and
Oh shit!
I tripped out, and my best friend and I, we got into a tussle, and I kind of blacked out, recame to, and my hands were around his throat. I was like,
Jesus.
whoa, what's going on? I was terrified at what just happened. We got into a bit of a tussle. I blacked out and didn't know what was going on. So having that legality behind it, I know from my own personal experience, going to these dispensaries now, it literally says on the side of this bottle here what the dosage of THC, CBD, and other ingredients are. I know exactly what's in this tin or this plastic bottle when I buy it now. Before going on seeing Joe in the park or calling up, your buddy on the phone, hey, I need to score. You don't necessarily know at all what you're getting. They could be selling you oregano for all you know.
Well, just to recap this article before we move on to the next one, the main thing is you can study things with full-blown simulations where you learn tons about a drug. And they say that's in silico, basically, in the computer. And then after in silico, you can do it in vitro, which is in a test tube, or in vivo, which is in an actual living organism. Mm-hmm. And so you want to get rid of all the iffy stuff before you even bother firing up the computer and before you follow up with the test tube, because each of these steps becomes way more expensive than the one that comes before it. And the better job you do of getting rid of all the crap that's not going to work ahead of time, that's huge. And so if this helps law enforcement, stop L-fentanyl from hitting the market, by a few days, then that's probably not a bad thing. But I think in terms of this technology might be useful or more useful for other types of research, honestly. Like Skep was alluding to. If it helps us figure out what kinds of candidates to look at for other kinds of drug research, that's really, really good. Mm-hmm. There was a similar thing that I was thinking of, because there's the whole intellectual property aspect of this. What you wouldn't want to have happen is somebody basically screw with the IP process to say, oh, I have 1 million different drugs here in this binder, and I'm copywriting all of them. And then effectively nobody could then create a new drug in a particular class because somebody had just run a computer program and said, here's all the possible combinations that produce all the possible molecules. That would suck. There was an experiment that somebody did, and they actually ran a computer program, and they generated. It actually doesn't take a whole lot of work using the existing note system that we have in the different keys and scales and things to generate all of the possible melodies and then trademark all of them by essentially saying, here's a hard drive that has all of the possible tunes that you could put in a song. But that would similarly suck because it reveals that there are problems in the copyright system.
Aren't current regulations that they have to go all the way through to clinical trials and then be approved for them to have patent?
I don't know. Like I said, it would be one of those things where you wouldn't want the system to allow for that.
Right. Yeah.
If you were going to patent a particular drug, it would need to have more behind it than just here's the structure of this molecule. Money, please. Skep, you were going to say something?
The patent process is uncoupled from the use as a drug in medicine process. So a pharmaceutical drug, when it's going up for patent, it's treated just like any other industrial product, and it can get its patent. Some drugs get their patent, and it's really inconvenient because it costs a lot of money too early in the process, and they waste a patent year, not being prescribable. And others, it's a close run thing where they're about to get out the door and the patent process hasn't finished yet. So but it's completely decoupled.
But I mean, like, there has to be like a physical product there, right? It can't just be a computer simulation of a product.
Yeah, it never has. That's never been a problem. No one ever thought. No one ever thought about someone, drawing up all of the. No one ever had the capability to put together all the potential melodies, for example, before. Now, computers doing repetitive work and or programmed work very efficiently. It's we have to confront some new situations. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you.
Well, there's what was I thinking of? In terms of the patent process, this is obviously really, really, really complicated. Different types of things have different guidelines, and some of the guidelines for patents, of course, have changed over time. Many people would argue that it got far too easy to get certain types of patents for a while. And it's not that you can't take a patent away from somebody after the fact. It doesn't happen all that often, but occasionally they admit, yeah, we screwed up, and this was not a valid patent. We shouldn't have given that out. But Einstein,
you can't sue that office either for that.
Yeah, Einstein was a patent clerk, to circle back to the earlier article. And so when he was working on the special theory of relativity, his day job was as a patent clerk. And part of what he would do is look at these applications.
Side hustle.
Well, people would come in and they would submit these patent applications. This was in Germany, I think it was.
No, it's in Switzerland.
It was in Switzerland. Thank you. Sorry. See, the brain almost works. And then he was doing this patent clerk thing, but they would actually, at that point in time, for most of the inventions he was looking at, they'd actually give you a physical model. So a lot of things that were earlier patents from the early 20th century, they actually would have to make a physical model. It wasn't enough just to give somebody a drawing and go, patent, please. You had to, like if you're going to say, here's my new and improved mousetrap. Well, you'd have to give them a little thing. It didn't have to even be completely functional, but at least had to demonstrate the method of action. Mm. And so that was part of the patent process, but they got rid of that. You can submit a physical thing, but that's a thing that doesn't happen quite so much these days because a lot of patents are just BS. Like I patented the multiple choice pull down box or something. Yeah, and now nobody can have one.
No, there are things you can't patent. For example, and the thing that they always teach in law school, the example that they give is you can't patent a knife. You can't say, this is the knife I have patented, a principle by which, you have a long cutting blade that, tapers to a point, blah, blah, blah. You cannot claim that. And that's one of the harder things actually in all of law school. People talk about this is understanding how to learn where that point is in patent law. It's a really tricky point of patent law.
There is a channel there's a guy called Radical Liberation, and he has an outstanding channel, and they talk about a lot of this stuff in depth. Really? Radlib he's a great guy. I mean,
it's dry stuff, but it's good. It's informative.
Well, he's actually pretty entertaining. I think it's not as dry as it could be. I think Radlib is.
He's not. The topics are. He does a very good job of presenting dry topics to make them more palatable to people who, might not be into that kind of level of dry.
And he's a good dude, and he does a very good job of presenting a lot of this type of stuff.
He always wears a smashing bow tie.
He does, and his wife and family are annoyingly attractive. It's really irritating. He's a good dude. I like Radlip.
Yeah.
I actually kind of hope that I could get him on here sometime, but hope springs eternal. Let's see.
I sometimes
okay.
feel like some of the questions that I ask that he answers, because I'm, for all intents and purposes, am a layman, but he sometimes I kind of get that feeling like, okay, here we go again. Well, and then he'll explain it, and I'll be like, oh, okay, thank you very much. And it's like, no problem.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that you followed him. But
Oh yeah.
octopuses, crabs, and lobsters will be recognized as sentient beings in UK after a review concluded they feel pain and distress. Now, I thought it was
Jeremy Corbyn, and I wouldn't classify him as a sentient being.
I thought actually before we get into this discussion here, it might be useful to actually look at sentience. So I was looking for a good definition, and I found this place called the Sentience Institute. Now, what they're clearly trying to get you to do is not eat animals and generally do stuff to animals. So they're pretty honest about what their agenda is here. But they give this definition: if we had to commit Sentience Institute as an organization to a single definition of sentience, we would say it's simply the capacity to have positive and negative experiences, usually thought of as happiness and suffering. This is narrower than the most common definition of consciousness in philosophy, which is something it is like to be that, and I can't even say it, that doesn't parse. Something it is like to be that organism. Oh God. Usually the term consciousness includes capacities beyond happiness and suffering, such as the experience of seeing or visualizing a color. Sentience Institute chose to focus on sentience, which is a special kind of consciousness, because most people who give significant thought to the topic see sentience as morally relevant rather than all conscious experience. So, going back to the octopi and crabs and lobsters, do you guys have any thoughts on the idea that we're going to treat these as sentient beings now? Or at least the EU is?
Thank God, it's about time.
Crab lives matter?
Crab lives matter. Yeah, arthropod lives matter,
The thing, it was kind of like what I said in the server and stuff like that. Like, I deal with distressed and animals in pain all the time. All animals feel it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I still eat cows. I still eat chickens. Like, pain and distress is a basic building block of any living creature, because it's the only way you learn in some cases.
It's self-preservation as well.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like now octopuses, I've seen them do some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But I've also seen horses be able to unlock their own stalls and then relock them back. That doesn't mean
horses are
we
mammals.
Eat horses.
Yeah.
Well, some cultures do.
In China,
But-
they do.
Yeah, no. In France, they do. Are you kidding?
Yep.
Horseman's very
Oh,
popular.
yeah. But that's the thing. It's like
Amazing that they
I understand they feel distress and pain, but that's not a conclusion of sentiency. And to do this, it's like it just feels like a stupid. It just feels like something else is going on. Like, it's just weird.
Animals, they're so cute and fluffy.
The
Well,
only thing I can hope is what this does is, so as someone who eats meat, I hope that when the animal that the meat comes from is butchered, that it's done so not in a way that tortures the animal. Okay, so like I'll be that person. I hope they suffer as little as possible. And I've seen some of those really, really gross. I don't think they do them anymore, but they were so gross mukbang videos where people were eating them alive. Like they were taking the baby octopus and all that sort of stuff, and basically eating them alive.
Mhm.
Yeah. I saw
Torturing
some
them
of
with
that.
salt and sauce, and you could see that they're writhing. They're in pain. That's doing something to them, and then they're eating them, and it's it's delicious. Or that's fuck you. Excuse my language. That is torturing the animal. There's no need for that.
Yeah,
You can eat it, but you don't. Why are you torturing
What's
it like some sort of
statement about what kind of a person they are.
Now,
Mhm.
to be tiny bit fair, in most Asian countries, when they eat the baby octopuses, they're actually dead. It's a reaction from the soy sauce that makes them writhe like they're still alive, and they're not actually alive. But the other stuff I agree with you with. But it's one of those things where it's kind of like this just feels like a weird ass stupid thing to do, because like I don't understand. Like octopuses, like I said, I can kind of understand, but crabs and lobsters, like literally, you can knock their like entire like spot, like anything, like just knife to the back of the head, and they're done.
Look at this picture. Does he look like he's judging you? Because I think he is.
100%.
Well, he's judging Sora, that's for sure.
Octopus
He's
is always
judging you, Functional.
Always judging.
Well, I mean, my definition of sentience and consciousness is self-realization and actualization. So that's why we tend to look at things with higher brain functions akin to our own, like primates, like dolphins, as not a food source and rather something to be to learn from, to study, and to cohabitate and not treat as livestock. Things like pigs and chickens and cows, we've bred for generations to be livestock. I've cuddled with a cow. I've played with cows and goats and these things that I have no problem eating, but I know at the end of the day they have lower levels of, if any, self-realization. They don't know that they're just a goat. They just they think, they feel to their baser instincts. That's a little.
Well, food. A lot of
I'm sorry,
hunters.
I read chat. I'm sorry.
I know a lot of hunters will tell you that game that's distressed doesn't taste, right before it dies, doesn't taste particularly good. So you want to play a little Strauss, and when the cows go through the abattoir, and then they just go around a blind corner, and then suddenly it's like whack, like
Carrier, you son of a bitch.
That was a good one, Carrier. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Make the baby meat even extra tender.
That was that great episode of South Park where they were good. They find the little veal cows, and Cartman goes, they look delicious. I love South Park. I'm such a child.
It's fine.
To put a
But
bow on this, I
intelligence-
could see, like Serenity just said, I could see that with arthropods like octopi, because they do tend to show in recent studies and divers' experiences with these creatures that they show memory. They understand what they are. They kind of recognize what we are as human beings, in a sense.
My favorite story is the story from a guy was working in an aquarium with the octopuses, and he would put fish in the tank every single day, and then he accidentally put a rotten fish in the tank one day, and the fish, like 15 minutes later, was slapped on his desk because one of the octopuses had thrown it at him.
Yeah.
It's my favorite story.
Nice.
I was like, damn right. If your sushi ain't good, you hit the chef with it. Just whack.
Yeah, omakase my ass. Son of a bitch.
The tuna's
Like,
not
I know
fresh,
I'm an
you
octopus,
asshole.
but come on, standards.
Yeah.
I have standards.
Yeah. Fucker.
Well, squid do exhibit some really interesting behaviors, in terms of how they sort of decorate their little squid nest.
Yeah.
With like a pattern of shells and sand and stuff. It's really interesting, but then again, a spider's not exactly sentient, and it can produce this amazing web. There's all sorts of stuff that looks complicated to us that is actually the product of evolution.
I just say
It's baked in behavior. You can take baby squid, and he'll grow up in a tank and won't have any squid to teach him how to do this thing. He'll just know to do it. It's baked
Evolution
in.
is just a theory, man.
Yeah, evolution is just a theory. And you can do the same thing with a spider. He doesn't have to go to like Spider University to learn how to make a damn web. It's just baked in. Of course, if you give him drugs, he makes a screwed up web, and that's a.
Oh yeah, those are always
Those are pretty funny. This is a
I really do
spider. This
believe
is
in
your
that
this is your
theory.
web. This is your web on drugs.
The plot one always makes me giggle.
You got the short bus web with the LSD.
Was it cocaine? Was it the one that was like this
Oh, yeah.
massively
Yeah.
complicated one?
Cocaine was Yeah, there's nothing that we could learn about human behavior from any of that research.
Yeah, no, no idea.
Yeah, and Talking Heads' Fear of Music as an album was totally not influenced by psychedelics at all.
Woo!
Actually, Talking Heads' Fear of Music is a really good album if you guys
It
want to
is.
listen to something that you might not have heard before. Let's see. God, I am just terrible tonight. Let's see. So,
No, you're not. Stop it.
yes, fusion power, because we haven't talked about that for a while, but I promise this is going to be relatively painless, and I will try not to be Professor Harry here. We've talked about this a little bit before, but I actually understand part of the story better than I did when we talked about it several months ago. So and new things have happened. So this is just a really quick circling back. So fusion power is like the holy grail, because we can just take cheap things and make all the power we want forever until the Earth gets swallowed up by a red giant when the sun runs out of fuel.
Woo!
But it's let's see, how did I do this to myself? Okay, so the thing about this fusion power requires massive temperatures and or massive pressures to essentially force all the positively charged particles together to form new elements and produce power. And so to do that, you typically need a really, really, really strong magnetic field for these particular class of fusion reactors. Now, there's this thing called ITER, which is being built right now. It's the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. And this thing is enormous. Enormous.
How big is it?
But Ching. I'm sorry.
Let me see if I can find the thing. It's
Here,
let's see. It's been described as the most expensive science experiment of all time, the most complicated engineering project in human history, and one of the most ambitious human collaborations since the development of the International Space Station and the Large Hadron Collider. That's how big it is. It's freaking enormous. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're trying to get to the point where they can produce power with this thing, but it's billions and billions of dollars. There's thinking it's going to be between 18 and 22 billion euros. But there are some people that are thinking, oh, you're just playing with the numbers. It's really more like 45 to 65 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's look at some American know-how, shall we? Going back to this MIT story, what they've done is they've actually found high-temperature superconductors. And so instead of having to supercool these enormous magnets, they're able to take the stuff that comes on a film, almost like an old recording tape, like a reel-to-reel tape. And they can spin this stuff into patterns and shapes, big coils. And they tested this electromagnet made from this high-temperature thing, and they were able to produce this insane magnetic field using something way smaller than the ITER reactor. So instead of it taking 35, 40 years to build this thing that's too expensive to run anyway, they've actually produced a scale model of the magnetic part of this thing. And we're able to produce a field of 20 Tesla, which is just this huge amount of things. So they're looking at being able to make a fusion reactor testbed that's going to be way less expensive than the ITER and probably something that's a lot closer to something that we could actually use.
Merca.
So it isn't like this is the kind of thing that makes fusion, instead of being 30, 40 years away, more like 15 or 20. This is a big step forward.
Hey, I'm just wondering how long it'll take China to make a bigger one that doesn't do anything.
Yeah, no kidding.
One Tesla is equal to 10,000 Gauss.
It's a lot of Gauss.
Yeah.
Do you know how powerful a magnetic field 10,000 Gauss is? 10,000 Gauss will pull the iron from your blood.
Woo!
I'm trying to remember what the field strength of an MRI unit is.
That's in that order of magnitude.
Yeah.
Those are in like 2,500 Gauss. But 20 Teslas? Really?
Yeah.
God damn.
The most powerful magnetic field of its kind ever created on Earth.
Hopefully it doesn't bite us in the ass.
Your typical commercial MRI scanner uses 0.2 of a Tesla to 3 Teslas.
It's 15,000 cows.
Yeah. But yeah, the point is,
So
this is a huge
Yeah.
Probably
amount of
changed
magnetic energy.
since I learned about those. Since
Oh.
I learned about them at the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably considerably more powerful than.
Well, this is a really cool story, but I know that not everybody's like super interested in this thing. But hopefully by 2025, they're going to be able to test. This is just testing the magnets. By 2025, we might actually start seeing real tests. And the idea that MIT, on a fraction of the budget, with a lot more brains and common sense, is going to utterly crush the international consortium and their bullshit 65 billion euro boondoggle is awesome because America, yes.
Well, I mean, it'd just be nice to be partially energy independent once again.
Oh, well, we could be anytime we want to be.
I know. I'm trying not to go down that path.
All we have to do is turn on a pipeline.
I know.
Yeah.
QE done.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, here's something cool. I know this will probably make Functional happy. He likes space stories. So we actually are working on our first test of a asteroid protection system.
Yay!
Very cool.
Yeah. Do you know anything about this, Functional?
Not about this specifically, but I knew about the possibility that we were expecting an asteroid that would cause a lot of damage because there was that one in Russia and another one more recently in China that did some damage. Not big, big bada booms, but big enough that they did some damage.
We're never going to be able. Well, I know never. I shouldn't say never, but almost never. It's very unlikely that we'll be able to stop all of the small pieces.
Yeah.
And about once every 100 years, you get something that's sort of a Hiroshima-sized thing that blows up. And so if you look in the desert, in like Saudi Arabia and Egypt, you actually can see there's jewelry that's sort of this fused glass type jewelry. And that's essentially like trinitite, which is the stuff that you can get from the crater at Trinity site in Alamogordo, New Mexico, where we did our first test of an atomic bomb in the United States. Mm-hmm. And so it gets so hot that it actually fuses the sand into glass.
Wow.
And so we find that same kind of glass in the desert. And based on what we've been able to find, we think it's about once every 100 years, something kind of big-ish makes it through. But those things are moving so fast and they're so small, we'd never be able to find them. But like the giant thing that destroyed all the dinosaurs, the thing that's like really big and that will really mess us up, we're getting pretty good at finding those. So the purpose of this experiment is to basically send a space probe up. We're going to crash it into a meteor and we're going to just give it a little nudge just to see how much we can affect its course. Because if we were able to just plot all of the things that were likely to hit the Earth in the next 100,000 years and just go up and kind of go boink, 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 and just kind of nudge them out of the way into orbits that were a lot safer for us, that would be good.
Because we can't keep throwing Bruce Willis at them.
We can't. Exactly. We don't have an unlimited supply of Bruce Willises.
Well, I mean, it also is a cool idea for the thing that Bezos and a few other people want to do, which is mining asteroids. Because if we have the ability to latch onto it, and nudge it, we can use unmanned stuff to nudge it into a place to just rip everything out of it, and then bing, bang, boom. Mother's your uncle.
Yeah, because you want to pull it out of the belt, because if you're going to work on an asteroid in the belt, it's very dangerous because
that's a hell no.
Spinning and moving at insane
Let me die.
speeds.
Can you tell Elowen to behave?
Behave. Harry says behave.
I can think
Don't listen
we
to him,
throw at
Mailin.
them.
She just like
I know. I didn't think it'd be terribly effective. So here's the problem: is there are all kinds of different things in space that we don't want to have crash into the Earth. Mm-hmm. Most experts now think that the Tunguska strike wasn't a meteor, but it was a comet fragment. So it was a big, messy snowball of a thing. And so if you go punching into a snowball, you don't really get much of a reaction because all you do is deform the thing. A nice big hard asteroid, you give it a good smack and it will give you a more inelastic collision.
And then I'll go, oi!
Yeah, it'll be like playing pool.
Oh, boy.
That's just how it'll do.
Yeah. So, but it's more like playing pool. You know, you hit the ball, and the ball, energy transfers, and it goes off somewhere else. But squishy things, and things that are asteroids that are just sort of a loose collection of rock, you don't want to just smack into them. You don't want to blow them into a bunch of little pieces. You really want to kind of nudge them. So, learning how to, which things you can hit, which things you need to put like a tiny motor on and just let the thing kind of run to push it slowly out of the way. You need different strategies for different kinds of objects.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like there's one thing that just works all the time. But this is a really good baby step. So they put this on a Falcon 9 rocket. Now the Falcon 9 normally would carry like tons of payload. This is actually a fairly small probe that they put on there, but they're trying to get it. They're trying to put some ridiculous velocity on this thing. So instead of boosting a big heavy thing into a low orbit, they're trying to just put some real sizzle on this thing and launch it into space.
How much speed?
Oh, let me see if I can find it here.
And a giant boxing glove on the nose.
Hey, but I can see another use for these things. We can move it this way. Harry can't talk about Pluto not having its own orbit all the time. We can move Pluto into its own orbit.
Yeah, we could do that. So the thing is, the craft is traveling at 15,000 miles per hour. It weighs 1,344 pounds, and it's wait, no, that's the craft. That's correct. So that's basically what they're trying. They're trying to do a head-on collision with the thing.
And that should slow 15,000 miles an hour.
Right, and that should slow the rock down by just a fraction of a second to adjust its orbital mechanics.
That's interesting.
Yeah, good times.
Now we just need FTL. That's all we need.
Well, that would solve a lot of problems, wouldn't it? But anyway, so the article is in the chat if anybody wants to read up on this stuff.
Probably some pretty interesting math behind orbital mechanics calculations.
Oh, yeah.
The old restricted three-body problem.
As long as they don't stupidly somehow move Dynamos, I think is how you say it, into our direction to hit us, I think we'll be good.
Well, when
that's what they're gonna do.
Science fiction authors always like to come up with all the reasons why there aren't more civilizations out there answering, like getting our signals from I Love Lucy and then showing up with like a basket of fruit, going, "Hi, welcome to the galactic neighborhood. Why are we not seeing more aliens out there?" So they like to come up with theories like, "Oh, they created their own Large Hadron Collider, which made a black hole and destroyed their planet." Okay, well, that one's done. So, once you reach a certain level of smarts, you just end up killing yourself is the basic thesis. So maybe this is one of those things. It's like you get smart enough that you think you can adjust the orbit of all the asteroids in your neighborhood.
And then you die.
Right.
And then you die.
Or if you're the Ancient Aliens crowd, they've already been here and they're gods.
Yes.
They seeded the planet.
Yeah.
Yes. They did everything for humans.
They
did
Talking
everything.
about panspermia.
They did everything for humans. Humans are pathetic and stupid.
Yeah, I've seen Stargate.
Yeah, I love Stargate. I love it.
All right, so this is going to make Sora happy because she likes the little space helicopter.
Yeah.
Here's the best video yet of Ingenuity flying across Mars. So let's see if we can make that a little bit larger here. We got this here. Look at it take off. There it goes. Whee.
Oh, look at it.
Yeah, I mean, the rover moves very, very, very slowly. The fact that we've got anything on Mars that's actually this is like a race car by Martian standards. The fact that it's moving as fast as it is. Look at it go.
Look, it's such a cute little thing.
It's Speed Racer.
Busy doing its little job.
Yeah, then he goes out of frame. Sorry. And
Yeah,
then
it's kind of
later
awesome
he
that
comes
we-
back and lands back on his little thing. But he was going out and checking stuff out, so
Put
it's
a drone
working.
on Mars. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
It
really.
is.
Mhm.
Has China
USA.
released any footage of theirs on Mars? I'm sorry. I'm being tacky.
Now, Serenity.
I love everybody. I'm sorry, I'm going slightly off topic. I love everybody believed that thing about their stupid rocket, like they actually managed it. Not just the space, not just the space, but the sub sonic one they did supposedly.
Oh yeah, note to self, we need to look at that China Straits publication again and see what other dumb things they're saying about.
Because I don't believe that BS for 5 seconds. Their country's falling apart. Bite me. Sorry. Tangent. Apologize.
Yeah, maybe we could sell them duct tape. Maybe
Exactly.
that would help them out.
There you
Alright.
go.
So anyway, let's see. A lot of details there. Let me put this in the chat. in
It's
case
so
everybody wants to
adorable,
know.
though. It's zoomed in, though, so it makes me wonder how far away it is.
Yeah.
Because the video is zoomed in.
Well, far away is good. That means they're moving. It means things are happening.
Oh no, I'm curious of like the distance between them and like if it's even discernible. Because it's barely discernible there once it starts flying. But that's the 13th flight.
So, does
Aw.
anybody want to talk more about this, or are we good?
I think we got the cutesies.
Okay. So,
it's cute.
onto something not cute at all. Space Force General, we're not as advanced as the Chinese or the Russians with hypersonic missiles.
Fuck off.
Isn't that
those
your
who-
job, Space Force? Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, actually,
Well-
Space Force is involved in the last story.
Yep.
So they are doing part of their job.
Yep.
Planetary defense.
Good.
Um,
I've got my eye on
Maybe
that.
this is all smoke and mirrors to get people like, no, we're totally don't have any of the really cool stuff here. And yes, these other people are 100%. Yeah, you guys are more advanced. And then when shit hits the fan, you guys are okay.
What's like my thing is that I could kind of sort of believe Russia, kind of. I don't believe China.
Well, what
Period.
they want to do is we've got these big fancy aircraft carriers. They want to render our big expensive aircraft carriers and the advantage they give us meaningless by coming up with something a lot cheaper that'll make them be obsolete.
Yeah.
So we've basically taken the position of, well, screw you. We're going to put 2 giant nuclear reactors on the new Ford-class aircraft carriers, and we've left room for directed energy weapons and railguns. And
Yeah,
just
really.
all this shit. It's like, we are totally ready for you guys. And they're like, oh, well, screw you. We're going to come up with missiles so fast you'll never be able to shoot them down. And then we'll turn your aircraft carriers into just scrap at the bottom of the ocean.
Well, a couple weeks ago, we had the story of the Israeli improvements to the tracking system
Yes.
Yes.
to counteract these. So, in fact, we're developing defenses. We're not developing offensive weapons because, I mean, truth be told, we already have. Well, you guys already have enough offensive weaponry. It really doesn't matter. What you want to do is protect your.
What it's the thing
Area.
of, okay, you have the missiles. How many missiles do you have? Do you have enough to take care of our aircraft carriers? Do you have enough to take care of our allies? If you don't have that, we can still make you eat your own butt.
Yeah. Hey,
when it
everybody
comes
say
down
hi
to
to
it.
everybody say hi to Patty's in the chat.
Hi, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
Hello.
And Adam.
Yeah,
Hi,
so-
Adam.
Yeah, so China. Okay. Stop.
Plus, that looks fake as
autoplaying.
hell.
Well, it is. So we actually did a test of our hypersonic missile because who doesn't want a hypersonic missile?
Oh yeah, that sounds
But
not
our
dangerous.
test didn't go particularly well. Now,
Yeah.
there's it's one thing to know how to build one. It's another thing to actually build them in numbers where we can use them.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if there isn't some sort of dark stuff going on in the government to build these things, and we're probably a lot better at it than we claim to be.
Well, I mean, why
But-
would we broadcast it?
Well, it doesn't do a whole lot of good as a deterrent if the enemy doesn't know you have it.
True.
That's the reason.
Well, until it works and is in
Yeah, that
you know,
like I'm one of the,
operational status.
I'm one of those sneaky people who's like, if you don't know I have it, I'm going to take you by surprise, but I blew you up with it.
I
Well,
mean,
there's
I
an
don't
awful-
think we were broadcasting to the world about the Manhattan Project, were we?
Yeah.
Well,
True.
there are a lot of things that happen at the end of airstrips near
Mhm.
various manufacturers, where suddenly you just can't go there, and then a large plane flies.
Yep.
And things happen, and then it
Yeah.
flies away. And that happens at the Skunk Works and a lot of other places like the Skunk Works.
Oh yeah. Hey, I'm slight nerdiness. My thing I'm excited for. I think they're working on a new A10 Warthog. I'm excited for that.
Well, they extended the life of the A10.
I know.
By
Pisses
what,
the
another
USAF
20
off.
years or something.
Yeah, it keeps pissing the USAF off.
Yeah.
Like, God damn you, fuck you. It's like, no, fuck you. We have
Actually,
a thing that can take a
if-
bomb to a wing and still
Yeah.
fly into base.
If China or Russia wants to fuck around and find out, we can just throw an asteroid at them.
Exactly. That's the other thing that they need to be worried about. It's like,
They'll never see it coming until it's
here
too
we
late.
go.
So, Metaforest is saying if they can deliver hypersonic missiles, the phalanx is not fast enough. Well, anything, your phalanx, Sergeant York, yada, 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 all those things are not fast enough for that type of thing, which is why we have the second nuclear reactor to power the lasers.
Exactly.
The lasers are fast enough.
It's a freaking laser.
Not to mention, I wouldn't be surprised if we have some kind of hypersonic interceptor. It'd be much better to get these things when they're over the horizon.
Yeah, like something that just goes boom and just like knocks them out of the air, like takes it, like basically EMPs them and just makes them fall into the ocean. And then we take them backwards, like figure them out. And then we do stuff.
I mentioned, the electronic warfare system that we covered a couple weeks ago that not only can target things at these insane speeds, but can disable them.
Yeah, which
I basically EMP them so that
well, not just EMP, but just scrambling their sensors and their data channels,
or maybe turn them back on their owners.
Yeah.
Which is like that's the funny timing of the Israel new dome announcement, along with this hypersonic. They were announced within a couple of days of each other, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those. It's a weird, like it's basically the penis game, where it's like flopping it out.
It's another arms race for sure.
Oh yeah, no, and it's an arms race never really stops. It never will until everybody's dead.
It ebbs and flows, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Skep will back me up here. Half the point of a good arms race is is if you've got a bigger budget than the other guy. It's sort of like decorating your house for Christmas.
Hell yeah.
You've got this neighbor you just hate that guy so much, right? And so you put up a bunch of Christmas decorations just to kind of shame him. And then he goes to Home Depot and gets more Christmas lights. And then you go, screw that guy. And then you put up even more stuff. And next thing you know, you've got all the inflatable things and the fans running all night and the spotlights and the laser show. And that's what.
Have yourself a very spiteful Christmas.
I know, have yourself but that's a lot of what sometimes what an arms race is. You don't have to fire a single shot.
Yep.
All you have to do is get the other guy to just spend way more money than he wants to on stuff that he doesn't really want to buy.
That's what we did with the Soviet Union.
That's what we did with China.
Well, smart people have asserted that was the point of the space race.
Yeah.
We did this basically to shame the Russians into spending a bunch of money that they didn't have because their economy was stupid.
Elwyn eggnog of spite.
All right. Enough of me talking about doomsday weapons.
I love this stuff, though. It's so fun.
Let's see. Do we have one more thing? All right. So I was, while I was busy being a giant nerd, I ran across this thing. And this thing is the Boeing MQ-25.
Hello, pretty.
And what this drone
It's a drone,
actually does is it's an aerial tanker.
Yeah.
Wow.
So instead of having to send some guy up in a nice slow-moving thing full of fuel, waiting to get shot at,
It's like moving target time.
you can send up this nice drone, and he can top off everybody's fuel supply.
And when the
I want to see
AIs take over,
Well, he's doing it right there.
Skynet.
That's sexy right there.
Now,
what I wanted to see was, do they have a guy on the ground who is flying the probe? When you do this kind of underway replenishment or this gassing up in the air, or you have to have a guy on board the tanker who actually has a little control over where the probe goes, because otherwise the probe just goes all over the place. There's so much turbulence in the wake of a plane. You have to have somebody fly that thing to the probe. People think, well, it's the plane that comes up and pushes its nose in. That's not really what's happening. That's what your eye sees, and you think of the plane going forward. What's really happening is that probe is coming backwards, and the operator is fitting it onto the front of the plane, and the guy on the plane his whole mission is just go straight and steady, no turns.
Well, to answer your question, it is autonomous. It can receive instructions from the ground, but it is autonomous. The plane uses, there's a communication network that a lot of these planes are using. I'm not an expert on it, but I did do a little reading on it that does encrypted communication for these types of things between different aircraft. And using that same system that they're already using, the idea is that the plane can send instructions to the drone saying, hey there, big boy, why don't you fill her up? And so it's supposed to, that's just part of what they're working on, is getting the system to actually work in, like, ideally battle circumstances, because this is like nice still air, not a cloud in the sky, nobody's shooting at you, and it kind of sort of works.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they want the autonomous system to be such that the plane can say, hey, don't just fly around over there, come over to me over here. So they're trying to work that stuff out and have the autonomous system be smart enough that it can function even if it's not able to talk to the ground. It's just supposed to do the right thing on its own. So it's Skynet, basically.
We're fucked.
Yeah. I think we need more military drones that can make their own decisions about where they're going to fly.
Yeah.
Woo.
Totally.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Yeah, but of course, you get your instructions from the ground, but it is actually designed to be semi-autonomous. So if the data link is severed with the ground control, it's supposed to continue to function. And to answer your question, the F-16 in this example is able to send instructions to the drone to do what you just said, to basically said, fill me up.
Okay, very good.
So it's like a garage door opener. You just kind of click it and then hope that nobody's on the same frequency. Suddenly there's like 50 drones all trying to fuel your jet at the same time.
They all swoosh. It's like incels
Razors.
when one of their favorite female thought streamers goes live. Wham!
Good analogy.
But so how many kids? Apparently, Owen's dying.
He is.
How many planes can it fill up of like the F-16 type? Does it say?
I don't know. What's weird about the F-16 is there's a variant of the F-16 that actually can act as a tanker.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. So it's
yeah.
sort of like we filled your tanker with a tanker so you can tanker when you tanker. I don't know.
Tank.
It's
Or
the
it's like,
Yo-Dog meme.
or like it's they're actually loaded onto like the. I keep wanting to say B-52s, but I don't think those are in service anymore. But the big, and they just drop them out the back of the plane, and then they fly out to fill stuff up.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a bunch of stuff I don't know about it because they
Yeah.
haven't released all this.
It's called
specs.
a Stingray.
But yeah, at least it's not called a sunfish.
Oh,
'Cause screw
God.
that.
hey, sunfishes hold a purpose.
All this hatred towards the poor sunfish.
MQ-25 sunfish.
That would be
Sunfish aren't
awesome.
even good enough to eat.
Sunfish are not good enough for anything.
Oh.
Hey,
Not
now.
anything.
They eat jellyfish.
It doesn't even have a swim bladder. It's a
They have-
useless.
I'm gonna start a petition for them to be on the list to be next nominated for sentience.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
you know what?
good.
They're real people too.
Okay, 10
You know what?
points.
No,
10 points to
no.
Sora.
You know what, Sora? Pluto is not a planet. Get out of here. I'm with Harry now.
Yeah.
You've pushed me over the line.
Well, you know what?
You're dead to
That
me.
is actually the show for tonight. We have 5 minutes left if anybody has anything they want to talk about.
I'm
Eh.
good.
Your enthusiasm is remarkable.
Well, it's like I had
My
my like
feels
2
wrong.
second. I had my 2 second bitching about China, and that's all I needed.
Okay. We good?
Everybody's kind
Oh.
of winding down from Thanksgiving, I think.
Yeah.
I'm eating Cheetos. It's fine.
Now, when was the Canadian Thanksgiving?
October.
Last month.
Over.
Yeah, October.
I do have to say that there's it was really funny. They like snuck it in because my phone went off. Apparently Friday was National what was it? It was National Indigenous Day.
Mm.
And I'm just like, really?
I actually
Black
saw that.
Friday?
Yeah.
I know. I was like, that's a bad time, guys.
National Indigenous Day.
Indigenous Peoples Day, I believe.
Do they ever have any days for white people?
Yeah, I think they consider
Every
everything
day's
else.
for white people. Skep.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on.
Jeez, man.
That's what I figured. That's what I figured they would say.
He's like, never mind. He's like, dang it.
All right.
You're-
Well, we
you're
can
s-
pick this up. We can pick. Oh, hold on. Pluto is no. Pluto is
Cougar
not.
died.
Pluto
Sunfish
is
came
not.
from Pluto.
What have you? Did you bring all of your Pluto apologists here? Ohio, shut up. Learn how to make your graphics. This is backwards. Don't do that. Let's see. Where do I have something on Pluto
Oh,
here?
that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see.
Scott needs a table
Pluto.
to play.
Pluto. Pluto. Look, there's Pluto off by
Shut up.
himself. Not a planet.
No.
He's not
Shut up,
invited to any of the
Pluto.
parties.
Shut up.
There's Pluto.
Shut up.
Poor
Why are you
baby.
midget shaming Harry? That's via geodes.
Oh, damn it. I had another diagram that shows how messed up Pluto's orbit is.
Shut up. Leave my baby Pluto alone, you bastard.
Okay. Well, anyway,
That's no moon.
You killed Pluto. You bastards.
That's my favorite. One student will be clean. Will all
Yeah.
be clean.
all right. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up and put it to bed.
I just
Thank you
realized
for
that's
being
just
with
the
us tonight, chat. We had a good time, and let's do it again next week. And by the way, SkepTock, I mean, all the Minions nights are really good. But SkepTock will be on a Tuesday, and we
Yeah.
always have kind of like longer format questions on there. We don't, so we get into a lot more depth. So if you like that kind of thing, definitely check out Tuesday night.
Please come by and see us, guys.
Yeah, with that, the zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Video there.